Hello everyone, I am the Jeddy, and this is GameCola podcast number 29. We are almost at 30. We're gonna be middle-aged pretty soon. Here with me is...
Oh, I'm 29, don't make me sad.
You're gonna be old soon, I'm sorry.
Soon?
Well, okay, you're already old. But anyway, the point is, with me today are Christian Porter, Michael Gray, and Paul Franzen. Everyone introduce yourselves?
Hello, I am Christian Porter. I currently neglect a whole host of different articles.
Hello, I'm Michael Gray. I do the exact same thing.
And I'm Paul. I'm GameCola's editor-in-chief, and I think I wrote a review like last month or the month before, so I think that means I'm winning.
Yeah, I actually got stuck with the podcast because I wasn't doing anything else. So, hello everyone, welcome to the podcast.
The default podcast that we're all being forced to partake in.
Yes, my first podcast. Today's topic is RPGs. I know it's a big favorite around GameCola. Paul, I'm sure you have a lot of fun with the RPGs, don't you?
I've played my share of RPGs, though not as much as of late as I used to when I was younger.
Michael Gray, you seem to know a lot about this subject as well.
I actually have a video walkthrough on the GameCola YouTube for Final Fantasy VI Advance, where I spend about the first half of it just bashing the game for being horrible and boring. So I'm not sure I'm allowed to talk about RPGs if I don't like the Final Fantasy series.
Also, I think that is the one RPG you have played. Is that correct?
I've played others. I played the original Final Fantasy.
Oh, that's true. That's right.
So to start things off, let's all talk about our backgrounds, which would be our first RPGs. I can tell you that I started long ago with Dragon Warrior, the original. It was a mind-blowing experience for my 4-year-old self.
4 seems pretty young for that.
Yeah, perhaps. I don't think I could read at the time, but there wasn't really that much important text in the game to begin with.
Yeah, you just fight the monsters. Attack.
There was also But Thou Must, which is always a favorite. So, what else is everyone else's first RPGs?
You know, I didn't start very early. I think I played a little of the first Final Fantasy, and at the time, it was a little too long, didn't read for me. So, later on, in the time of Super Nintendo, I got into, like, Final Fantasy, what was it then, like 4?
They called it 2 at the time, however.
They called it 2 at the time, yes.
Yes, what a...
That was probably the first one.
Those tricky Japanese, what are they doing to us?
Those wacky people.
I know.
First their panty vending machines, now this.
Whoa. What will they think of next?
None can say.
Michael Gray, what was your first RPG?
I think it was Final Fantasy, but I didn't play it on the NES. I played it, Game Boy Advance time, so it must have been like 99 or so. No, probably more like 2003 or so when I played my first RPG. It was just Final Fantasy, and I didn't like it.
Tisk.
But I like the Fire Emblem games. So I guess, are those RPGs?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, and I like some RPGs.
Mr. Franzen?
I've been trying to think, actually. I'm not sure, but I believe that the first RPGs I probably played were, I think Mario RPG and Secret of Mana, which I think is interesting, because they're also the most recent RPGs I've played, because I've recently downloaded them on the Virtual Console and played through them. Very
exciting. I also like that you swapped the and the in Mario and Mana. That is to say, Mario and Mana, but let's continue. This is such a bad group to do this with because you guys haven't really played that many games.
Any of the same RPGs at all, yeah.
Yeah. Wait, have we all played Final Fantasy VI?
I have.
No.
Paul has played it through me vicariously.
Yeah, I watched Michael's videos of it.
Paul, have we all played...
I played 7. Doesn't 7 count? Everyone likes 7.
I actually do not like 7. I'm one of the few, apparently, who do not like 7.
How could you hate a Final Fantasy game? I'm disappointed in you, Jeddy.
I know.
Well, Jeddy's more of a Dragon Warrior person, I think.
Yes, I'm more into the older, the classics, if you will.
The ones where you can't open doors without navigating a menu.
Exactly. Like, you can go stand on the stairs. You can stand on the stairs all you want, but you won't climb them until you specifically select stairs from the menu.
Yeah.
I think we talked about this before on the podcast, but I was actually stuck in the first room of Dragon Warrior 1 for the longest time because I couldn't figure that out. Because I think I played it like I don't know, when during like Super Nintendo or maybe N64 era, and it never occurred to me that that's what you would have to do to solve the exiting the room puzzle.
Come on, Paul, you're good at those adventure games. You'd think you would select all your options, wouldn't you?
That's true. Well, I'm not sure I'd even discovered the menu yet at that point. I just kept like banging my head against the door saying, "Why won't you open?"
For Final Fantasy VI, where the stairs are the exact same color as the wall, so you can't find them, and you spend 15 minutes trying to find the one set of stairs. That was a horrifying experience.
I always did like exits that are on the south side of the room, which you generally can't really see. It's just a small bump in the wall of sorts.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you gotta love it.
I've walked around in circles trying to find those quite a few times.
You can't see the pathway either.
Secret entrances and such are always fun, except when they're not supposed to be a secret and they're just hidden.
Yeah.
When they're mandatory for continuing the game.
But that just increases playtime, right?
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
You're getting your money's worth.
Yes, just like all those random encounters and very large world maps.
That's like the reason I don't play that many RPGs anymore, is because I'm just so sick of random encounters and turn-based combat. I don't have the patience for it anymore.
I found the industry seems to be moving away from it, though. I don't see it that often anymore. I don't see that much turn-based. Or even random encounters, I've noticed it's kind of a trend that you can always see your enemies now. Like, I'm in the middle of Blue Dragon, and it does that, where you can see everyone beforehand. There's no randoms. It seems to be catching on.
Maybe it's just time for me to get back into RPGs then, because I kind of started my RPG funk like years ago. I don't remember what game it was that finally broke. Oh, I think it was probably like Dragon Quest VIII, where I was like, okay, I'm done. I'm just going to play side-scrollers and adventure games now. I'm finished.
Oh, Paul.
But I mean, I have been getting back into it. I mean, now that I've said all these bad things about random encounters and such, I've been playing Dragon Quest IX lately. So.
Well, see, that's actually kind of an interesting point, though. Like, the defining characteristics of older RPGs, such as random encounters, lots of grinding for leveling and gold and such. Like, these were the things that when I was 6 years old, I loved about RPGs. I just loved to walk around in a circle immediately outside of town for 2 or 3 hours, killing things, and then move on.
Yeah, see, for me, those were just things that I had to do. I had to get them out of the way so I could get back to the interesting part, which for me was talking to people in town and advancing the story. Like, the actual gameplay of RPGs almost was just kind of in the way of me having a fun time, which is kind of weird.
I kind of agree with the whole grinding thing, that grinding... It's kind of something you do. It's something I do in those games just so I can be a jerk and be way more powerful than everything. But I don't know. I think if it's really well made, it shouldn't be necessary.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, one of my more recent pet peeves. This is something I came across when I was playing Enchanted Arms, and when I was watching my fiance play Infinite Undiscovery is the final boss, where you can get to the final boss, you can just zoom through the whole game and not ever have to grind, and all of a sudden you're at the final boss and you're like 20 levels below where you need to be. Not a fan of that.
I noticed the same thing with Final Fantasy X2, which I'm embarrassed to say I played.
But you see, when they say on the box that it has 80 hours of gameplay, that is how they managed to get that number.
Oh, yeah.
Mm.
Like, even if you got through the whole game, you still have, 20 hours of grinding left to do.
Yeah, see, at that point I usually just stop playing and watch the ending on YouTube if I can find it.
Yes. See, I guess I'm sort of an oddity, because certain games, like Arcana, there's no way you can get through that game without grinding. But in that way, it sort of gives me exactly what I want. Like, that is why I enjoy that game so much. It was very generic, it was bland, but it gave me exactly what I was expecting out of the game. So I'm not complaining.
So,
it's one of my favorites.
What do you find fun about grinding?
Good question.
That's not me trying to be a jerk. I'm just curious.
Yes. I'm not sure. I guess it's the same thing that calls people to MMORPGs, like the whole hunter-gatherer mentality that, oh, there's something out there that, if I keep trying, I will get something eventually. And, it's not like a side-scrolling shooter or something where you actually have to be good at the game. You just spend a very long time doing it, and suddenly, whoa, you're the best. Once you reach level 99, you can just power through the game.
Yeah.
I mean, I always find the process of actually gaining levels very, very gratifying. It's always fun to see all my stats go up and to see if I gain any new skills or if my nickname changes or something. But actually getting to that point, I don't know. It's very, very dull for me. I find myself listening to an iPod or reading a book while doing it sometimes.
Yes, in a lot of games, the later portions of the game where it takes hours and hours just to get like one level, or you already have all the top equipment, so the only thing you're doing is grinding for levels, which aren't really giving you that much, that becomes quite boring. But the earlier parts of the game, where you can fight, 5 or 10 battles and you gain 2 levels, that is a favorite. That's, I guess, one thing that I loved about the original Dragon Warrior, is there was such a small amount of beginning stats. Like, you start out with about 10 HP, and you're only really doing like 1 or 2 damage with each attack. So when you're suddenly doing 3 damage, that's like a major increase. That was what made it entertaining, is like, whoa, I fought 10 slimes, and now I'm so much more powerful than I was an hour ago.
Teaches an interesting work ethic for kids, I think. Teaches them that if you just put in the hours, you'll eventually get good at something, and then you'll be able to kill anything you want.
Yes, that's how it works in the real world, right?
Not to interrupt, but I'm thinking about what you're saying in terms of, like, the Castlevania games. Which, are those RPGs?
The original ones or the, like, PlayStation and later ones?
I haven't played any one that's not 2D.
Well,
So
They're pretty much all 2D, except for some abominations we won't speak of.
yes, exactly.
Okay. Well, I mean, I just played the Game Boy Advance ones and the DS ones. How's that?
Okay, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Those are
Those
RPGs.
are pretty much RPGs.
Yes.
What I like to do is I go to an area where you have continually respawning enemies like bats, and then I just set the game to do a continually attacking attack, and then I just leave my game in the charger and come back like 2 days later, where my character is like suddenly 50 levels higher, and then zoom through the rest of the game.
That is a brilliant plan.
That is one way to auto-grind.
Yeah.
Oh, but at that point, what's the difference between doing that and just using Game Shark to achieve the same end?
I don't have a Game Shark.
Yeah.
It's free.
Exactly.
Touche.
But, so now we live in a world where random battles are becoming a thing of the past, and save points are no longer a major issue.
And I am all
Thank God
for
for
getting
that.
rid of save points. Because I'm in the middle of Blue Dragon, they will have like 2 hours go by without a save point, and it's ridiculous.
Yeah, actually, Christian, that's one of the reasons I haven't picked up Blue Dragon yet, was because I was researching it and I read exactly that in a review, and I was like, I don't have the patience for that. I can't do that.
I'll be
I
at
don't even play
completely
video games for 2 hours at a time.
I'll be at completely unimportant parts. They'll have 6 save points. I'll go through this entire dungeon that took me 2 hours, and they won't have anything, even right before a boss.
Yeah, that was exactly what ended my play session of Infinite Undiscovery, was that I played for like an hour and a half between save points, got killed by a boss, and had to go back all that time. I was like, all right, I'm not playing this anymore. There are fun things I keep doing instead.
That really douses my fun when that happens.
My favorite was always where I would save immediately before a boss, and then I would come to find that I was horribly underleveled. But see, because I had saved immediately before the boss, I only had a limited amount of tents. Therefore, I could not actually level enough in that area in order to beat the boss. I basically have to restart the game, or hopefully be able to make it out of the dungeon.
Question. What do you mean by save points not being an issue anymore? How has that changed?
A lot of games have made it so that you can save anywhere. Like, save points at first were just technical limitations. Like, it could only handle you saving in certain places. But now, since they don't exist anymore, those technical limitations don't exist, you can, in some games, save anywhere you want to.
Interesting. I haven't seen that in a lot of RPGs, actually.
Too many
What
people
I
are kind
find-
of just sticking by the save points because it's tradition, but some are doing away with it.
Well, you also see some games letting you do a quick save, which isn't like a permanent save file. You can just save your game and turn it off, and then you can turn your game back on, load that save, and that save file is immediately deleted, and then you can just continue. So it's like just so you can stop playing when you want to stop playing.
Yeah, that's something a lot of them are doing too.
That's what Dragon Quest 9 does.
Yeah, and there's a somewhat of a move towards autosave. Technology. Everything is done automatically these days.
Crazy technology.
I know, once again with those Japanese.
What will they think of next?
They're going to have the 3D Wii. How's that?
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
It can fly, actually. You don't need to, like, put it on the ground or something. It actually hovers.
The game just plays itself.
Basically.
Oh, they already do that. Mario Galaxy 2, which I just read about in a review on GameCola.net, in fact.
What is this?
Wait.
What is this site that you just mentioned?
GameCola.net. It is a video game comedy site. It's pretty much the best website I've ever been to. I recommend it for everyone, even if you don't like video games.
Wait. One question. Does it have a Facebook page?
It does have a Facebook page. If you just go onto Facebook, type in GameCola in the search bar, you can go right to our Facebook page and click the little like button to like us, and if you do that, every time we post a new article, it'll show up right in your Facebook news feed.
Well, by Jove.
Wow.
Unless you're friends with GameCola staff writer Matt Jonas, in which case your news feed will be filled with stuff from him, because he updates every 2 seconds. Everybody listening to this podcast who is not friends with Matt Jonas didn't get that joke, but...
It's very true.
I have to admit, I am not friends with Matt Jonas.
Yeah, at any given time, I can look on my friends page, and approximately half of the posts are from him. We love you, Matt.
Yes, we do. Super Mario Galaxy 2 actually plays the game for you, and I think that's only the second game that's done so, Paul, actually. It's new.
Yeah, it's a new thing that Nintendo is starting. What's the other one? New Super Mario Brothers Wii? I think they do it too.
Yeah, so it's called the Super Guide feature, where it basically plays the game for you. It'd be interesting if they tried that with an RPG.
Yes, you get to sit there and watch them go through random battles for 5 hours.
Well,
yes.
I mean, there are plenty of RPGs that have like an auto button you can push in during battles to just fight the battle for you. Earthbound does that. Enchanted Arms, to bring that game up again, also allows you to do that.
That's true.
Which I found particularly useful in Earthbound, because I would just turn on the auto feature and then, go away and do something else.
Or
I think I have weird issues about turn-based combat, apparently. I apologize to all turn-based fans, because I know I'm kind of crazy and disliking it so vehemently.
It's not for everyone. It's like speed chess and regular chess. And if searching for Bobby Fischer taught us anything, it's that they're two different things with their own individual merits.
I think one of the topics Jeddy wanted to bring up was RPG elements in other games. And I think that's sort of why I brought up the topic of genres in general, is you see a lot of cross-genre stuff happening nowadays.
This is very true. Most games these days actually have some sort of RPG element to them. Like, you can play a racing game and it'll still have, like, item collection or earning money to buy parts.
I mean, a lot of games now let you level up as you progress through the game, like Castle Crashers, a multiplayer side-scroller. I mean, you level up as you play through the game, which is definitely cribbed directly from RPGs.
Exactly. Even first-person shooters are starting to get some sort of, you level up in your weapon proficiency or something.
Yeah, like Borderlands did that.
Oh, yeah.
And quite a few others.
I was going to mention Borderlands, but I think that actually is considered an RPG, but it's so uncertain anymore.
Yeah, like an FPS RPG.
Yes, I think it said that on the box.
It did.
Wow. Truth in
Yeah, I mean,
advertisement.
that's the idea, right? It's supposed to be like a Diablo-style game, except instead of hitting people with swords, you're shooting them, and it's all in first-person view.
I remember the game Hexen, a very early first-person fantasy-based game. Like, it was very much swords and such, as opposed to shooting. And I remember being very surprised.
I think I played that. Was that on N64?
Yeah, it was.
I played it on the PC.
I think I remember playing the N64 version with my friends when it came out, and what do I remember about it? I think I remember running around shooting magical spells at people.
Yes, that's true.
I don't think we got very far. It was very, very notable for me at the time for being, like, unless I'm making this up, a co-op first-person shooter on N64, which I don't think there were very many of. I don't think there were many co-op first-person shooters in general at the time.
Yes, that's true. Are there now?
Borderlands, for one.
That's true.
The new Call of Duty has some co-op stuff in it.
Yeah, I guess it's not that common, though.
Not particularly. It's not yet. Well, it seems to be catching on, though.
I think Duke Nukem 3D, the port on Xbox Live, I believe it has something like 8-player co-op, which I've never been able to test because I don't think 8 people own that version of the game.
That always reminds me of the age-old question about Secret of Mana. I'm sorry, Paul. Secret of Mana.
It's all right.
Where...
It was the butler.
Yes. Could you...
That's the secret of Mana? It was the butler?
Yes.
Very nice.
Sorry.
Thank you for solving that for us, Michael. I think we need a spoiler tag on this now, though.
Yeah.
But the question always was, could you play 3 people if you had the expansion to play with multiple controllers?
Absolutely. That's how I used to play it.
Really?
Yes. Oh, yeah, I had the multi-tap. I used it for Secret of Mana, I used it for Bomberman, and NHL 94, which you could actually play 5-player, which just totally blew my mind.
Well, see, that was about the only game that I remember having a use for the multi-tap. I mean, I never owned it, and I never had a friend who did, so I never was able to test it on different games, but the only one that I remember being advertised was sports games.
No, I was the one guy. I was the one kid who had the multi-tap, and we pretty much. I think it was just those three.
I had one. I used it solely for Bomberman. Although if I knew that about Secret of Mana, I would have used that too.
Oh yeah, you totally can. And it is the best way to play that game.
Yeah, well, I always remember, like, not that I had any friends, and not that I had any friends who would actually play an RPG with me, but I would force my brother to play Secret of Mana with me, and that was quite fun.
I don't know. That's what I like about Secret of Mana. It's awesome no matter how many people you have playing it, but it gets incrementally awesomer the number of people you can add to it.
It's just a shame we're long past the point where I can talk anybody into playing it with me. I could try talking my wife into it. Hey, honey, would you like to play Secret of Mana with me, multiplayer? No, she wouldn't.
Harsh.
I was able to get my fiancée to play it with me. It was pretty awesome, though she didn't seem to like it as much as I did. She was poking holes in the plot, making fun of the translation.
Was there a plot in Secret of Mana?
See, that's the thing.
I mean,
I think when I was little, I must have filled in a lot of the holes when I was playing it, because I remember liking it because I thought the story was awesome. But as far as I can tell, the story now is you collect 8 things, and on the way you kill Santa Claus. I think that's about it.
Wait, what?
You don't kill...
Santa Claus.
He's still alive after you kill him.
Santa Claus, Michael, he turns into a monster because the kids stopped believing in him because there wasn't any more mana in the world.
I don't know why belief in Santa was based around mana in the first place, but...
Am I the only one who pronounces it mana?
I pronounce it mana, but that's just because the biblical term.
You only recently learned that game exists, Michael.
Yeah, but it's a biblical term, manna from heaven, but it's spelled differently.
Yeah, I was going to say 2 N's in 1 N.
Yeah. But Paul was going to do a multiplayer run-through of the game, which sort of fell through because... Paul, would you like to explain, or should we just change topics?
I don't know if we should go into how Sprite Monkey ditched us.
Oh, okay.
Wow, this is a story about Sprite Monkey? I miss him.
Oh, that was basically the whole story. We were planning to do a 3-player playthrough of it, and then someone didn't show up.
It took me a long time to configure my recording equipment to actually record. That record at least... How many hours? Did I say 20 hours at a time? That was awesome. I was able to record like a 20-hour block, and then Sprite Monkey doesn't show up. And Paul's like,
"It's okay. We still love him too. It's okay, Sprite Monkey."
Yes, we all want you back. What did he do anyway?
He wrote reviews and did a column reviewing games for WiiWare, I believe.
Oh yeah.
I remember that. Myrtle T. Blinken.
No. That was something different. That was WiiWare. No, that was Virtual Console.
Oh.
Sprite Monkey did WiiWare games.
Oh, that's some hair splitting.
They were 2 entirely different columns, guys.
Yes. So whatever happened to Myrtle T. Blinken?
She disappeared the same time as Sprite Monkey.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, how odd. What a coincidence.
But I think that's enough talking about old GameCola writers that people listening probably don't know who they are. Anyway. What else about RPG?
We were still discussing the inclusion of RPG elements in games today, such as you can't escape stories anymore. I think there are very few games that actually don't really have some sort of story element.
Yeah, I would say that, and I'm going to throw this out there. I'm not sure that crossing genres is actually a good thing. I mean, the last 2 hidden object games I reviewed, they were basically a hidden object / adventure game mix, and both of those games would be so much better if they were just straightforward adventure games and threw away the hidden object mechanic. I realize that would
but then they wouldn't be appealing to their audience anymore, because the games are specifically made for fans of hidden objects games. So they might be better games, but then the people they want to buy them wouldn't be buying them anymore.
I suppose. I don't know. I just really would like them if they weren't hidden object games, and I like hidden object games, but still. So I'm just wondering if people find that's the case with the game that throws in an RPG element, would you be thinking, boy, it'd be really great it was just an RPG, or it would be really great
Right.
if they got rid of the RPG stuff.
Right,
Whereas
so
if-
you're saying that genre mixing in general isn't always a good idea, because you
Yeah.
might turn off fans of the original genre who don't want to see other elements brought into their game.
Mhm.
See,
Well, I mean,
I'm not very good at Halo, so I would prefer a turn-based version of Halo. That would be quite exciting to me.
I'd probably play that one. And I would still have little kids online calling me various racial epithets and questioning my sexuality.
those little
I don't know,
kids.
actually, I think I see Michael's point of view, because I feel like, in adventure games also, specifically in the early 2000s, a lot of adventure games that were coming out then, kind of toward the end of the big adventure game push, they were doing things like introducing stealth elements or action scenes, and it always really kind of bothered me because I didn't think that stuff was fun, and I didn't think it belonged in those games.
Well,
I guess
those
it
were-
depends on the game. Sometimes they'll just kind of mix 2 or 3 genres together and they'll just fumble it all up and everything will be terrible. But some mix them together really well. It depends on who's doing it and how they do it, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was going to say. I mean, with the specific game, I'm thinking, what is it, Love and Death Bitten, the hidden object / adventure game about vampires. They could have kept some of the hidden object parts there, but I'm just saying... Actually, I don't know what I'm saying. If it was a straight RPG, I could handle it if it had a little bit of the hidden object mechanic there, but I would prefer it if they got rid of the hidden object stuff altogether.
It seemed like it was almost too deep, too story-driven to squander it on, like, just hidden object stuff.
It was story-driven, but what you had to do is you had to wait 2 minutes every bit of the story plot to find the 20 random objects hidden on the screen. And 4 of them were things you couldn't find because they were hidden. They were like hidden behind a tree where you could barely see them. So you had to basically spam the auto-solve button, which refilled every 30 seconds. And that was just not fun.
Yeah.
But some of the hidden object parts made sense. Like the vampire needed to find blood to make himself more powerful. So just go through the area finding the 5 different things of blood. That makes sense. It's actually hidden objects, but it's important to the plot. There's actually a reason rather than just find hidden objects because that's this game.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, that was my one problem, or that was my big problem with the one hidden objects game I played. I know this is getting a little off topic, so I apologize to all of our fans out there who are really dying to listen to us talk about RPGs. Anyway, it was a game called Yard Sales Sunnyville or something like that. It was for the Wii, and I was really excited about that game because I love yard sales. And I actually thought that the hidden object game would be a pretty solid premise for a game about yard sales. You know, you go to yard sales, you got your shopping list of things you're looking for, and then you find them at the yard sale. But the problem was that the list of items was completely arbitrary. It had nothing to do with what you actually would want to purchase. Like, you would have to find like symbols that were painted on the person's house, and that would be it. Like, you weren't actually looking for things you would ever even physically be able to purchase. It was just completely random. Really turned me off of the yard sale game.
That's unfortunate, because how hard would it be to just, say, pick up a beach ball and a flashlight and whatever?
Yeah, see, that's exactly what I was thinking. It seemed like such a natural fit that, yeah.
Find
It
some.
seemed they had the world was their oyster and they completely dropped the ball.
Find a T-shirt from a elementary school 3 states away. You know.
That would be awesome. I think I have a T-shirt from a family reunion from a family I don't belong to that I got at a yard sale.
I have bowling trophies from people that I got at a yard sale.
I have the 1985 high school baseball championship trophy for Division I of Northern California.
Awesome.
I wasn't
got a
a
trophy for a quarter.
1985, but I still have the trophy.
Very nice, Michael Gray. So I think at one point we were talking about RPGs.
Yeah,
I thought we were talking about yard sale games and our dreams for what they could be.
Yes, RPG elements.
RPGs.
RPG elements in other games. But I did like the inclusion of RPG elements into the Castlevania series. Once again, going back to that topic, the classic Castlevania Symphony of the Night, perhaps one of the best games ever.
Mm-hmm. One of my favorites.
Yes, taking the classic Castlevania series, but adding in saving, thank you, finally, and leveling up and such, item gathering.
Pretty much just turning it into Metroid.
Yeah, these things happen. But actually, I would have to say, like, looking at this from the the opposite direction, saying including other elements into RPGs. I do recall somewhat of a debate about certain games such as Lufia 2. I know Lufia 2 is a classic loved by everyone. It brought puzzles into RPGs. It was enjoyable, it worked well, but at the same time, sometimes I would rather just be fighting random battles than doing a puzzle.
Well, what kind of puzzles do we mean? Like Tetris or like a Legend of Zelda kind of puzzle? I haven't played Lufia 2 yet. I'm waiting for the DS remake this year.
There was a lot of shooting arrows at things, leaving bombs in places. Yeah, I guess it was basically like Legend of Zelda. And everything was timed to how many steps you took. So you would take 3 steps and then your bomb would go off. Or monsters, you would see monsters on the map, and they would move as you moved, but only when you moved. So you could make a monster step onto a platform while you stepped onto another platform, that kind of thing.
Oh, okay.
Did you not play it, Christian?
No.
Yikes, I'm the only one.
I intend to at some point in my life, but I have not yet.
Yes, it was quite a game. Like, I have to say, it is a classic. A lot of people I know love the game. Personally, it was good, but I also have a problem with Chrono Trigger. I thought it was a bit much.
Ooh.
I know.
Oh. You see, that's one game where I can put aside my dislike of turn-based combat and slog my way through because I like everything else about it so much.
Yes.
I'm so sad to say I've never actually finished it. I played it,
Really?
but for something happens and I get sidetracked.
Oh.
I will pick it up and I will play it because
Well,
it was good.
as long as you played most of it, that's probably okay. I don't remember it having like the best ending ever.
But it had multiple endings.
Oh, that's true.
And then there was the whole New Game Plus.
Oh, you know what?
right,
That's true. I got I did get the like crappiest ending you can possibly get, but I didn't really count it as beating the game.
Yeah, the very first time I played Chrono Trigger, I was doing it off of a New Game Plus, off of one of my friends' game saves.
Wow.
And I still lost it at the final boss.
Wow.
I don't understand how that's even possible.
Actually, a fond memory of mine is when I lent Final Fantasy VI to a friend of mine. I was trying to introduce him to RPGs, and at the time, this was, the pinnacle of RPGs. This was before Chrono Trigger and all that. And I lent him Final Fantasy III. And a week or two later, I came back and I was like, "Hey man, did you play the game? What did you like?" He was like, "Oh, all I did was fly around in the airship on your save." Like he didn't actually play the game. He just flew around in the airship and then proceeded never to do anything else.
Well, the airship is pretty fun.
Apparently.
That's why they don't give it to you till halfway through the game because they hook you on the story. Otherwise, they know you're just going to be zooming around your airship.
I know there's so many things to do on the airship, like fly around and land.
Yep.
Yeah, actually, I'm not sure how that could keep someone engaged for a particularly long amount of time.
Well, when you're like 6 or 8 years old, it's a different story.
And you've never seen anything like that before.
Yes.
Maybe this is where the genre mixing needs to come into play, where they need to have like Airship Simulator 2010 built into the game.
Well, actually, Kingdom Hearts has something like that, where to get from world to world for the first time, you have to play what's called a gummy ship level, where it's basically like a Star Fox kind of shooting game. And that was actually one of my least favorite parts of that game, because I just wanted to go hit things with my gigantic key. I didn't really want to fly around in a spaceship very much.
And I didn't like it either, because I'm so anal, I have to build up the best ship ever. And if it's not the best, I can't have any of it, and I have to do it over.
See, I did just the opposite. I just went with like the minimum possible, because I just didn't feel like doing it. I was like, come on, I want to see what the next world is. Why are you making me do this?
That's how I was with Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts. I realized it was pretty much just gummy ships. So halfway through, I was just like, all right, forget this.
See, actually, that's part of the reason why I go to RPGs as opposed to other games, is that, like, side-scrolling shooters, I have to kill, like, everything. I have to shoot all of the things. You've got all this stuff flying at you. And realistically, like, I realize now that you're not really expected to shoot everything. It's more just about surviving and then killing the boss. But to me, at 8 years old, I was like, if I can't kill them all, then why should I even bother playing? And then I would just turn the game off on the first level.
Yeah, that sounds like that would be an incredibly frustrating experience.
Yes, I was never very good at side-scrolling shooters.
Yeah, me either. One of my first Super Nintendo games was Darius Twin, if I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Wow.
And I think I only ever got through like the first couple levels.
Yes.
before putting it down and going back to play Mario for the 18th time.
But see, actually, speaking of some of these games, we go back to RPGs once again and the inclusion of story in games, which is quite common now. But back in the day, the most story that you would get was in the instruction manual, where it would have like 2 or 3 poorly translated paragraphs about how, during the glorious days of the planet Farmel, there wasn't really any story in the game. However, there was no text in the game except for perhaps pause or bomb.
And now that's kind of reversed, where the instruction manuals, they just have like the bare minimum they need to be called an instruction manual. In the game, the games tend to be pretty storyful.
Yes, which is surprising when apparently even sports games these days will have some sort of story mode.
Really?
Yeah, I heard something. I mean, I don't play sports games at all, but apparently there was like recent Madden games will have a mode where I have no idea. I've never played it, but apparently there's a story. You play as actual players or something, and there's drama and such. I don't know. I guess it's like professional wrestling.
I don't know.
Which
That
also
actually sounds
has a
kind of
story
neat to
in the
me
game.
because I mean, a lot of times I kind of like the gameplay in sports games, but after I've played a couple games, I'm like, okay, now what? So it would be neat to have something like that to push me forward, where the storyline is more than just I gotta win the Stanley Cup.
What more do you need?
Which I think is actually hockey.
Oh. But I mean, well, what really drove you to continue playing the original Mario? Excuse me, Paul.
Well, the original Mario, nothing drove me to play that. I didn't really like the original Mario very much. But Mario's 2 through World,
Yeah, that's true. Super Mario Bros. 3 actually did have quite a bit of story elements to it.
And they've actually added more story elements to more recent releases of it, too. I was just toying around with the Game Boy Advance port, which I believe is called Mario Advance 4, Mario 3 or something like that. And they actually added a cutscene in the beginning of the game where you see the airship flying in and turning the king into an enemy and then zooming off.
So they basically turned it into all other Super Mario Bros. Games in recent years.
Yeah, kind of. And actually, I can pretty much, I don't really care about the story in Mario games very much. Like, I can pretty much do without it most of the time. I don't know, I guess I just like running around, hopping on things, running particularly fast, turning into statues, etc.
Yeah, but see, that's sort of the thing, is that video games back in the day, before all of these RPG elements began to be included in other games, you would just play the game for the game. I mean, I suppose puzzle games, I mean, I don't play a lot of recent games, but I guess puzzle games would be the last bastion of safety from some sort of story. I don't imagine there's much story that people...
Well, actually, a surprisingly relevant game to this conversation in that respect would be Puzzle Quest.
Whoa.
Yeah, it is a definite merging of Tetris-style gameplay and RPG story. So there you go.
Even then, there's Portal, which is essentially a puzzle game, but it's partially first-person shooter, in the style anyway. But really, it's pretty much just a puzzle game with a reasonably deep story. So no one is safe.
Yes, it's very sad. What can you do if all you want to do is play a video game? Well, I suppose you can still just play the video game, but what if you don't want to read?
You could skip the cutscenes and such.
If they let you.
If they let you.
That was always another favorite part of old RPGs, is text that is printing very slowly and you cannot speed it up.
Ugh.
I actually like that sometimes because I always find myself like skipping far too ahead in text. I don't know. I find it like in the Phoenix Wright games, I really like how they present it to you incrementally. And I don't know. Actually, I'm not sure where I was going with that, but for some reason I enjoy it. Although if it goes too slow, then it's just annoying.
Have either of you played Xenogears?
I have not.
Nope.
No. Okay, well, you guys are kind of lucky. I know Xenogears is another game that people apparently love. And at one point, I myself loved it, and then I tried playing it again recently, and I can't stand the game. I'm sorry. Everything from the story itself and the gameplay, like, the battle system is the only good thing about the game. But then...
Ouch.
Yeah. But, I mean,
Ouch.
they did have a very unique battle system that I enjoyed, but it's only exciting until about halfway through the game when all you're doing is mashing the most powerful death blow that you have, and there's not really a lot of development, and then all you get is robot battles anymore, which there was nothing exciting, you just do the most powerful attack. Anyway, actually I was talking about Xenogears because of the everyone talks to you all the time. You can't go to a shop and just say, I would like to buy something. You have to sit there and listen to them and talk about like, hey, welcome to the store. I'm selling a lot of things. Would you like to buy something? If you would like to buy something, click buy. Wait, there's more. They never just let you go straight into the store.
Yeah, that's not an element I care for when they overdo the talking. Like, I know Mass Effect could be like that sometimes, but at least it was optional. If you wanted to go around to everybody in every single city and every single planet and talk to them, they'd be happy to lay upon you a huge story, but you could at least skip it.
Yeah, because I remember when they sort of introduced, like, everybody would talk to you in Chrono Trigger. Like, you would just walk by and the text boxes would pop up and that sort of thing. They did that in Xenogears, but most of it was, like, required reading, which became very annoying.
That is one of the more annoying things in RPGs.
Do they still do that? I don't know.
I don't think that badly, usually.
But see, nowadays, I don't even really know what is considered an RPG, once again. For example, Shadow of the Colossus is a very confusing game to me. It looks, from the outside, to be an RPG. Like, there's fantasy elements and there's a story of such, but the playing of the game is almost more of a puzzle game, once again, where it's an action-based battle system, and it's all about trying to find the enemy's weakness. Have you guys played Shadow of the Colossus?
Yeah, I have, yeah.
I haven't, but I'm actually hooking up my PS2 this weekend just so I can play that and a few other games.
Yeah, it's definitely one of my favorite games. It's very unique, but again, realistically, there's more actual story in most first-person shooters these days than there was in Shadow of the Colossus. So could you really call it an RPG when compared with all other games?
Mm-hmm.
Well, do you consider story to be an absolutely essential element of what makes an RPG? Like, what are the essential elements of what makes an RPG? I guess this is a discussion we probably should have had at the beginning of the podcast.
That's actually very true.
Editing can fix that.
Yes. This is the beginning of the podcast, and we were going to talk about what makes an RPG. You see, the term role-playing game, I've had this discussion quite often, that you could say Super Mario Brothers is a role-playing game in which you play the role of one Mario, and he is a plumber, and he jumps on mushroom-shaped objects and such.
Yeah, I've always had that kind of thought, like, what does role-playing game really mean? You play the role of someone in every game, usually.
Yeah, I don't like that argument because you can take it to an extreme and say literally every game ever made is a role playing game. Like you can do the same thing with the simulation game genre. You can just go by the literal label.
Yeah, that's true.
And say every game is a simulation. Like I think way back in the day when I reviewed Spice World, I think I actually said that the genre was simulation because it simulates being a Spice Girl.
Wow.
This is not what I would do today, by the way.
But the question then is, what about Tetris? Is Tetris a role-playing game?
It simulates moving. Or you play the role of a Tetramino or whatever they are.
Yes. Yeah, Tetramino? I don't know how...
So I think the problem is, I think we're and I do think people do make arguments like that, and I think where they get hung up on is they go too literally based on what the actual label is. Like, I mean, you can do that for a number of genres. You could say adventure games. So many games could fill into that just because you're going on an adventure in so many different games. I think you can't just go specifically by the label. You have to then further define what the label means.
Yes, point-and-click adventure specifically. But, yes, role-playing game. In the early days, it was almost exclusively fantasy-styled. And at the time, fantasy was not part of other games. You know, you wouldn't so much find a side-scrolling shooter that had anything to do with fantasy. I suppose you could have a dude with a bow and arrow who is running through the forest, but that never really happened.
Be pretty cool, though.
What's that game where he fights the dinosaurs? Turok.
Joe and Mac? Oh.
That one, too.
Yeah.
No, Turok.
That's an awesome co-op game, side note.
Joe and Mac?
Oh, yes, I love that game.
I love that game. That is a good co-op game. Caveman Ninja.
But it's not an RPG.
Yes.
No.
But yes, what defines an RPG? Because back in the day, it was basically a fantasy game in which it was top-down, and you had random battles that were either side view or in the Dragon Warrior style front view. It was very specific, like you could tell an RPG just by looking at it. But yes, anything can be an RPG now. Super Mario Brother RPG. Like, how did they take Super Mario and turn it into an RPG?
And I think it probably comes a lot more from how the gameplay works, like mainly stat juggling. If there's stat juggling going on somewhere, it's probably an RPG, just because it comes, I believe, originally from like Dungeons and Dragons and that kind of thing.
Yes.
So probably even if whether you're doing it or whether the computer's doing it behind the scenes, if there's some stat juggling involved, more than likely an RPG.
That's true, because...
And I think it's also safe to say that RPGs need to have some kind of combat element. You also have to not be a spaceship.
But, as Christian was saying, that stat juggling, in a side-scrolling shooter, you shoot and your bullet does, damage. You don't see the damage, there's no real calculation of defense and attack.
That's true. Yeah, nowadays, almost everything has a little stat juggling at least.
And that's true, which leads us back to the confusion of what is an RPG anymore.
Yeah, so what makes a game like Final Fantasy 13 an RPG then, as opposed to every other game that's on Xbox or PlayStation 3 right now?
I don't know.
Maybe that's
Final
a bad
Fantasy
example,
13
I don't
was
think
almost
anyone
not
likes
even a
Final
game.
Fantasy 13.
I think Final Fantasy 13 is an RPG because it is a Final Fantasy. I mean, Final Fantasies are RPGs, right?
Usually.
I don't
yeah.
know. I bet there's got to be some spin-off game they made that isn't an RPG.
Chocobo Racing.
Yeah, I was going to say. And it's still technically an RPG, but like Final Fantasy Tactics? I mean, it's...
Well, then we get into the RPG versus strategy.
But it still has stat juggling, it still has major story elements.
I consider strategy kind of a subgenre of RPG.
Yeah, there's the strategy RPGs and there's tactical RPGs too? I'm not really sure what the difference between those two is, or if
I didn't know there was a difference.
Oh, I have no... See, I tend to avoid games like that because they sound too hard.
Yeah.
I mean, we still haven't really reached a definition of what makes an RPG. I suppose we said stat juggling?
Mm-hmm. Maybe nowadays, like really overt stat juggling where there's certain levels you can gain. Like, for example, in Call of Duty or something like that, if you shoot someone in the leg, it's going to do like 20 damage behind the scenes. If you shoot them in the face, it's going to do 100 damage. Whereas in RPGs, maybe like if you get a better, well, even that doesn't work, better gun. Because you have better guns in those games, but maybe your level goes up, and then all of a sudden those bullets start doing more damage.
Yes, because the stronger you are, the harder you shoot.
Of course.
I mean, that did work. Well, another older classic game, Shadowrun. Was that an RPG? I mean, there was definitely stat juggling, there was definitely story, but the playing of the game was definitely not a traditional RPG gameplay. Have either of you played Shadowrun?
No.
No.
Okay. It's difficult to describe, but there was more running around. It was more action-oriented. You would probably like this game, Paul.
Well, it's not. Is it like a Secret of Mana or Legend of Zelda, that kind of action, or is it like side-scrolling?
It's top-down, so yes, it was similar to Secret of Mana, perhaps. It was very fast, but it had to do with guns and such, which was a little confusing.
Yeah, guns are not something you traditionally see in RPGs in general.
Yes. Specifically, that much action. Like, it would be one thing if it was a turn-based thing with guns, but there was actual, like, aiming of sorts involved. But at the same time, your stats determined how often you hit. So that was an RPG, even though that early on, back when RPGs were almost exclusively turn-based, it was doing quite unique things with the gameplay.
Yeah, it seems to use kind of a dice roll system like Knights of the Old Republic.
Another game that everyone loves and I've never played.
I've never gotten all the way through it, sadly.
Oh, it's a good one. The sequel's not nearly as exciting though.
Yeah.
And I'm still kind of bummed out that the third one's just going to be an MMO instead of a real game.
I know, it looks like kind of a cool MMO, I guess, but
I guess
I'd rather
I
have
just
a real
don't really
game.
like MMOs very much in general.
Neither do I. I've tried. God help me, I've tried, but they're just so boring.
Yeah, I played the week-long trial of World of Warcraft or whatever. I forget how long
I've done that. I've played Star Wars
it was
Galaxies.
awesome. I spent the entire time it was like around Easter, and they were doing some kind of Easter egg hunt special, and I spent the entire time just laughing at people because they were actually camping the bushes in town, waiting for Easter eggs to respawn. So that was like the height of my enjoyment
Excitement.
of World of
This
Warcraft.
is where my $15 a month goes.
But see, that's another interesting topic, is MMORPGs. The concept that you can play an RPG, but you don't have to actually have friends. So you can meet everyone all online.
In fact, having friends almost precludes you from playing it.
Yes.
And am I incorrect? Are MMOs actually a little less story-centric than most RPGs?
That's a good point.
Because I think a lot of it is more quest-based, like you have to go do X to achieve Y, and it's not so much you need to go here, kill this person, then go here, then go here.
I'd say the story's a bit more loose. Like, there's a bad guy, there's a few sub-quests, and basically you have to kill 4 of these guys to get there, and you have to collect 4 of these, or 6 of these things, or whatever, to get somewhere else. You're basically just doing odd jobs around a story.
Yeah, that's another a question about the, quote, RPG genre given to MMORPGs. I mean, there's definitely stats and there's leveling and all that, which are RPG gameplay elements. But, for example, when I first started playing Ragnarok Online, there was no story. You just go in, you kill things all day, and that was about it. But there was absolutely no point to doing it.
Yeah, I mean, that was basically my very limited experience with WoW, was that the entire story was laughing at people, at least from my perspective.
I think you got the right idea.
I've never...
I hope some WoW fans are listening to this and just getting very, very angry at us right now.
We'll show them.
If you have any questions, send them to Paul Franzen.
Send them to Paul.
Go right ahead, everyone. If you have any comments or questions about the podcast, email them to pfranzen, Pfranzen, @gamecola.net. If you do that, we may read your letters on the podcast next time.
And make fun of you.
MMORPGs, yes. I also played Final Fantasy XI, which was the Final Fantasy MMORPG, and that attempted to include an actual story. Most of you could entirely avoid playing through the story parts of the game and just have your generic leveling up like Ragnarok was. But they had rank missions where you would go play through the story of the world. Like, everyone always got the same missions. You played them all in order, and you got the story of the game. So there was some sort of story included, but again, it was entirely avoidable. They tried to force it on you by requiring that you get rank 4 in order to get your airship pass, but you would just see a lot of people who were rank 4 and nothing more. It was always a surprise to see someone who was rank 10.
See, it all comes back to the airships and how fun they are to drive.
Actually, I did like that about Final Fantasy XI, is that the boats and the airships, instead of just automatically taking you someplace else, you spend 5 minutes on the actual boat as it was going through the water.
You can actually do stuff on it?
You could go fishing, and occasionally you would get attacked by pirates.
Oh, I was going to say, I would want to be a pirate.
Uh-oh. Yar.
Yar indeed.
So how do we define RPGs?
By the role-playing. Wait.
Yes.
There we go. Problem solved.
Yeah, because, again, there's so much blurring of the definition anymore. So many games have stats of some sort, so many games have a progression or a story. It's hard to say whether a game is really an RPG unless it has, the more classic elements of turn-based battle for some reason, saving. Well, no, saving is in most games these days anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But again, like Final Fantasy, if it has sort of fantasy elements, they'll call it an RPG. Whatever the gameplay is like.
I wonder if it's easier to define RPGs via looking at other games and describing why they aren't RPGs, as opposed to looking at a game and describing why this is an RPG. Maybe it's easier to say Madden, not an RPG. Bam. Halo, probably not an RPG. Shadow of the Colossus.
Yeah.
Questionably.
Yeah, because, again, it has story, it has all sorts of classic RPG elements, but the gameplay is notably different from traditional RPG gameplay.
I'm looking up on Wikipedia what a role-playing game is. I figure if we can't figure it out, if we can't nail it down, surely someone can.
What does Wikipedia have to say? Anything good?
Nothing yet. Although I do suggest reading the Wikipedia article of Baby Got Back.
Whoa.
Just on a completely unrelated note. It's just very funny to hear them talk intelligently about that song. Oh, well, here we go. It says here, as far as video games goes, it is a loosely defined genre of computer and console games with origins in role-playing games such as Dungeons & Dragons. So there you go. It's loosely defined.
That's all we got, Wikipedia?
That's all we got.
So that's what an RPG is.
Loosely defined. You're welcome, everybody. Good night.
Yeah, what else is there really to talk about?
I say we just go around real quick and we all say what our favorite RPG is.
Oh, I do have that on my list. I have written on the back of a receipt. RPGs. Our first RPGs. Our favorite RPGs. What is an RPG anymore, and why we like them? Which I guess is kind of a bad topic for conversation with this group.
I love RPGs. I love my RPGs.
Paul, why do you like RPGs?
I like the stories, usually, and I like the RPGs that let me just push A to swing a sword and hit something in the head, but I like it to be more story-based.
Yeah, I remember being very young and saying that I liked RPGs for the story, and then I go back and play games such as Dragon Warrior, and I'm like, what was I ever talking about?
Well, if you think about it, what other games did you have then? Like Wrecking Crew and Pac-Man and stuff.
That's true,
So,
yeah. Comparably
it's
speaking,
rich
it
with-
definitely had story.
Yes.
Yeah, it's rich with story back then.
Yeah.
And I mean, today, too, RPGs generally have, I think it's safe to say, there's more story in them, even though we did talk about how most games these days have story elements. I think RPGs are generally still more story-heavy than anything else.
Yeah, that's true. Even if you say, for example, like Borderlands, which is an RPG, but the play style is completely non-traditional RPG. But it does.
And the story was tacked on.
Was it?
Oh yeah, it was.
Yeah,
totally
actually, that's not the best example because I don't know that the story was really all that. Like, it had a lot of words. It did like we were talking before, like what MMOs do, where you run around and you do quests until eventually the story progresses itself and you get to do something else.
Yeah.
I actually have to admit that I did not play Borderlands. But I watched my roommates play Borderlands.
My favorite part of that game was when I leveled up whatever class I was using enough to get bullets that when I shoot people, it heals them.
I do like that, yeah.
I was very entertained by that because one of my favorite things to do when I'm playing games with my friends is to accidentally kill them. So this allowed me to shoot at my friends and have it actually be beneficial.
Yeah, I found the same thing for me because there always comes a point where I'm just like, I can't take it anymore, and I shoot them in the face because it's just funny.
And then they get all mad at you. It's ridiculous.
I know. But now with these magical heal bullets, you can heal them, no one's mad, you've satisfied your bloodlust, all is good.
That game had a black guy in it.
It sure did.
That's rare in an RPG, except for perhaps everyone's favorite Barrett.
Also, one of few video game stars with a beard. Well, at least at the time. I think I wrote a Dear Readers column about that a very long time ago.
Well, perhaps the youngest character at the time with a beard, because there was always Tella, perhaps, or any old man.
Oh, that's true.
Sage-like old man, yeah.
Probably not the first, but I think it was probably pretty rare.
But the first character under 50 or so, or well, I guess old for an RPG character is about 18.
Yeah, that's about right. And usually they're extremely effeminate anyway, so the chance of them having a beard is very slim.
Yeah, I always love that the grizzled war-tested veteran. He's like 19.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't actually know why I like the RPGs that I do. I do know that I tend to be very specific. Like, I tend to like specific RPGs. Like, I don't know if I even can say that I'm a fan of the genre as a whole, but I really like Chrono Trigger, Chrono Cross, Dragon Warrior 7 kind of randomly, Secret of Mana, Mario RPG. Like, I can't just go to a store and say, oh, that's an RPG. I will like that. I'm going to buy that. I just like specific games.
Yeah, there was a time in my life, years and years ago, where I would basically have said, oh, it's an RPG. That's my favorite game. But, yes, anymore, I can't play a game that does not have a save state. Although I guess that doesn't preclude me from playing RPGs, just not on systems.
Yeah,
that's why I like playing old games on the Wii Virtual Console now, is because you could just save and stop playing whenever you want. Like, I think I probably own like 3 or 4 different versions of Mario 3, but I still bought it on the Wii just so I could do that.
Interesting, they allow that? I thought that was,
No, they don't, like, you can't, there aren't like save files per se, but if you exit the Wii's main menu while playing the game, it basically does like an emulator save state kind of thing. And then when you start the game later, it just jumps you right to that point.
yes, very interesting.
Yeah, it's awesome.
I know when I first started using like emulators and such, I was really psyched by that feature.
Yes, you can save immediately before the battle.
Yep.
Or within the battle, and then when you start dying, you can just load from where you were doing very well.
Or if you're in one of those situations where you have to pick between like 2 treasure chests and one has crap and one has the best weapon in the game.
Yes.
You can save,
Yes.
open up the one, if you get the crap, you restart.
Or my personal favorite is you would get like the strength seed, and it will randomly give you between 1 and 5 strength. Oh, well, I'm not going for any less than 5.
Absolutely.
Maybe that's why RPGs don't let you save anywhere.
I think we found the reason.
I did something similar when I was playing Enchanted Arms. There was a casino there, and the game let you save anywhere, so I just go play the casino for a little bit until I won lots of, like, if I lost money, I would just go reload my save, just keep doing that over and over and over again until I had enough money to buy everything in the game. Worked really well, actually.
That's another game I want to get into. I played for like a few minutes and then I stopped playing, and now I want to play it again after your article. I think I mainly stopped playing it, though, because the one gay guy is so flamingly gay.
Oh, he is horribly annoying, but he's not in the game for that long.
Oh,
I wanted to stop playing too, just because I thought he was super annoying.
Just in the beginning, I was like, I didn't go into this a homophobe, but I'm about to come out of it a homophobe.
Yeah, don't worry. He isn't around for the entire game, I'll put it that way.
Excellent.
But yeah, that was actually a big turnoff for me too, was that guy specifically. But yeah, funniest game
every
I've
time
ever
I'd
played.
pop it in, my wife would come in the room and be like, "Oh, are you playing the gay game again?" Yes, I'm playing the gay game again.
My fiance she'd just hear me laughing uproariously in the other room, and she'd know I was playing Enchanted Arms and laughing at the amazingly awful dialogue and story.
But I liked seeing your Facebook posts about it's a game actually about arms.
It is, like, I went into the game, I was assuming it was, something about how you have to collect all the magical weapons of legend and combine them or give them all to your party members so you can defeat them. No, it's not. It's about a dude with an enchanted arm. His right arm is possessed with a demon. That's the story. And it's actually the only enchanted arm in the whole game. I don't know why they made it plural.
So it's kind of like the same naming
enchanted
school
arm,
as
it would have been
Scribblenauts.
more correct. People wouldn't have false
It's the
expectations.
same. They went to the same naming school as Scribblenauts, where you're not actually scribbling anything, and there's only one of you.
Bothered me too. The Scribblenauts, the name just sounds like it should be one of those games where you draw your little character and you have to, there's some DS game like that.
Magic Pen Gel. I remember I reviewed that one.
That wasn't what I was thinking of, but that works too. No,
Drawn to
there's
Life?
some side scroller where you draw your main character and
Drawn to
there's a
Life.
gap. You have to draw a bridge.
Yeah, that's Drawn to Life.
Yes.
It's
think
by
there's also a
that's by the
SpongeBob
same
version.
people. Yes, there is.
Yeah, Pengel, Magic Pengel, that was a great game.
It's just rock, paper, scissors,
Yes.
and dicks. You play
But
it
does
like
that
I-
qualify as an RPG, do you think? Let's bring it
Well,
around.
I'd say so. Magic Pen Gel, I would say it is a piss-poor RPG, but it's an RPG because you had to do battle with your enemies, and then after that happened, you would gain new parts to make you stronger, and then you can make your character stronger, and at the end you have...
Until you can draw the ultimate penis.
And that I did. That I did. Gonorrhea discharge and all.
Yes.
I think you had a screenshot in your review.
Yeah, I was going to
I
say,
did.
I remember this review. This is a classic.
Yeah, when I submitted that, I thought either Paul might laugh at this, but he might also say, okay, get out of here. You're disgusting.
No, it was close, but it wasn't even the worst thing we'd published. I think we had an article around the same time period from Kevin Leacock about Second Life and people creating and selling dog penises to wear. And he had screenshots.
I played that briefly, and I had a huge floppy penis on my guy that I would occasionally whip out at places that were really inappropriate, like the Virginia Tech Memorial.
Wow.
Which shows what an awful person I am, but it was kind of funny.
Yeah, that's kind of bad.
Welcome to GameCola, everyone. This is the GameCola
Hi.
podcast.
It's going to be a fun podcast for you to edit. I feel like a lot of these sections have to get rearranged.
Yes.
I think you got a good 10 minutes of content you can keep in.
Yes. Well, see, one thing I'm glad about this podcast is that, I guess Michael Gray did leave, but this is not all about Phoenix Wright relationships.
That's not something to like about this podcast. So any final thoughts on RPGs?
I like them, for some reason.
They are fun.
I very much enjoyed Pokemon when it came out because, again, the original Pokemon was very, you grind and you level a lot.
See, I like that because that was a game that really gave you incentive to want to battle after random encounter.
Yes. Yeah.
Because you had to catch them all, and that's how you did it.
Yes, it was very addictive.
Yeah, I
My
think what I
nephew's
like
obsessed
about
with
that
it.
is probably what I like about all the best RPGs is that you can kind of make it your own. Like, if I want all the fire Pokemon, the water, or if I want a fire and a water and a ghost or whatever, I can do that. Or if I want all fire, I can do that. I like any game I can make my own.
Like Final Fantasy 1, you could choose the characters.
Yeah, and like Fitter and Look Bolt.
Yes. Lit 2, Lit 3. A-Lit was a favorite, whatever that means.
Some of these things no one can even figure out.
Yes, Afer.
See, what was really convenient for me is that all of my best friends, their names are only 4 letters long, so it made it really easy to play older RPGs.
Paul, Lizzo.
Never ran into any trouble with it.
That does make it easy. I, to this day, always have to put in my name as Christia, because for some reason they always stop at 8.
Yes, even though there's no real technical reason to do that anymore.
No, there really isn't. For a while, I guess the technical limitation was 6, so for years, for gaming generations, I was Christ.
Whoa.
Which was cool. That was cool, admittedly. But now it's Christia.
Yeah, I mean, I never had a problem because, Alex. But also, my brother is Eric, and so I could always have Alex and Eric would fit.
That works.
Yeah, but I think this podcast is about done, sadly. This was podcast 29 on the GameCola podcast. Is that good?
Yeah, that was great.
Okay,
That's excellent.
yeah, goodbye, everyone. Christian Porter, Paul Franzen, and let's all pretend that Michael Gray is still here.
Goodbye, Michael.
Yes, goodbye, Michael.
Goodbye, everyone.
Yes, yeah, we're done.
I hope some WoW fans are listening to this and just getting very, very angry at us right now.
We'll show them.
If you have questions or comments, forward them to Jeddy.
Yes, the podcast master. I'm going to edit that out. Or perhaps I could then say, if you have any questions, send them to Paul Franzen.
Send them to Paul.
Yes, and the previous comment will be edited out, and these ones will remain.